Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. Feels really good to say that. It's been about 2 weeks and change, and I gotta sit there and say, I miss the soap opera. I never thought, I just never thought that I would actually miss the soap opera. Um, Remember back in the day when I first started watching soap operas, my first show was One Life Left. And at the time, my friend was like, you should sit there and check out some other soap operas or whatever, just see if you like it or not, you never know. And, at the time, I was like, kind of an ABC guy now, there's one life to live. And, eventually I moved on, started watching other stuff, Port Charles, and, which got me into GH. And at that point, it was those three I was watching. And I remember I clicked on and I watched Days of Our Lives real quick. And the first time I saw it, they had a woman named Billy, Lisa Rinna, I think. I could have swore it actually had Ty Treadway on there at one point. I saw it and I was like, I don't know, it's a little foreign, it's a little weird. And now I'm like, I'm loving this soap opera. Um, so going into this episode, let's start off. It's off with Kristen. Kristen and Abby. So, Abby walks in and Abby's like, yep, the walls are closing in on you. Kristen is listening to a phone conversation of Sean. He's like, yeah, Abby's been missing and, we're looking for her. We think Kristen may be involved. And, Kristen just feels the walls closing in a little bit. And Abby walks in like, see, I told you. I told you they're looking for me. I'm like, Abby, shut the hell up. But anyway, Abby's like, I'm not going to eat, and, I don't want to be poisoned and stuff like that. And so, this is after Kristen, talks about all the other people that she kidnapped, and, they were fine. She was the nice kidnapper. I mean, she only let their families grieved and missed them, but she was the nice one. And to be fair, and she has been pretty nice, except for the whole, keeping them away from their family part and friends. She's actually been pretty nice. Um, and she looks around, she sees that Abby didn't touch her food and stuff like that. It's like, yo, I don't want you to starve. Like, and Abby's like, well, if I starve, it's your fault. And this is after Abby's like, yeah, I don't want to sit there and get drugged and stuff like that again. So Kristen's like, all right, screw it. I can't do this anymore. So she starts to try to, she starts to eat some of, um, Abby's food. Just sit there and prove, like, yo, listen, this isn't poison. Like, you're good. Now, apparently, Abby must have found some sort of sleeping pills in one of the rooms, and so she mixed it in like the food and the drink and stuff like that. So the minute that she started like drinking and sipping and stuff like that, Abby was like, "Yeah, I got your ass." Abby was like, "I got you," um, which I gotta sit there and say was pretty smart. Um, So Kristen's sitting there talking, she's talking about Rachel and stuff like that. She starts to notice that her body just feels off. Her head is just kind of spinning. It's just, she's not feeling well. So that means the drugs has taken effect. And so Abby's like, well, that took long enough. And, she tells her, oh, I found these pills or whatever, and I slipped in my food. And so, she hits the ground. Now I'm still wondering what is going on with Sarah. Is she drugged? Is like what is going on with it? Because she's reading these books, and she's like, well, no one's gonna rescue me, so I had to sit there and rescue myself. So at this point, I'm sitting there thinking, Sarah knows that she's kidnapped. Sarah knows that she's kidnapped. I don't know what she was doing when she was talking to Kristen before. It seemed like she was kind of out of it, and she's sitting there reading these books, and I'm just like, you would think it'll be a little more fight, like, oh, I want to try to get away, I want to try to escape. But she's just content that they're reading books, and she's like, all right, so I'm gonna get out now. Like, I'm just gonna sit there and try to rescue myself. So she just walks on out the room. Clearly, she must have been able to leave at any point in time. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I think she was because it wasn't like Kristen locked the door and she just walked right on out. Because when Abby was looking around the house, she went in Sarah's room and Sarah wasn't there. So she could have just left at any point in time. But again, it is a island. You can only get there by plane or boat. So yeah, I can totally see why she wouldn't bother to lock the doors, except for her room. Um, Now Steve and Kayla wake up and there's food, and Kayla's like, "All right, I'm hungry," and and Steve is like, "What are you doing? It could be poison." Kayla's like, "Listen, I ain't eat since I was meant to try to sneak some food when I was, pretending to be a nun. I'm eating. I'm just gonna take the risk." So she's eating her food or whatever, and Steve decides to take the fork to start trying to pick the lock. Kayla's like, "You know how many people I had to stitch out because they were like trying to pick locks and stuff like that? Just be careful." You know, Steve at this point was like, Steve is pretty much like MacGyver. He's just going to MacGyver his way out of the situation. So he's picking the lock or whatever. He cuts himself. And I'm sitting there looking at this whole thing like, well, so much for him MacGyvering his way out of this whole thing. I thought he was like this super spy or whatever. I get that sometimes you can kind of slip up, but I also felt like there was just more of a way of Smith is saying, "I told you so." And so Michaela was like, "Well, I don't want to sit there and say I told you so." And Steve was like, "You just did." I'm like, Steve is supposed to be this, I don't know, just this special agent badass or whatever. I didn't think that picking a lock for him would be that big of a deal, but apparently it was. I'm still kind of puzzled by it. But anyway, she's looking at his hand. She's like wrapping it up or whatever, or she's looking at it, and then Sarah just walks right on in. So Chad winds up texting Abby's phone and you know texts Gwen like, "Yo, listen, just return it back to her family safe and sound. I'll give you whatever you want. She's a mother, sister, friend, yada yada yada. Just send her back home." And Gwen feeling kind of guilty, she being a mother, missing her kids and everything like that, and sister and daughter and everything like that. She feels kind of guilty. But she's like, "Yeah, I can't help you." So Chad is like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I tried the nice way. And then he threatened. So he's like, "Yo, listen, if I find you, you're done. You're donezo. Okay, I'm literally coming at you full blazing. Like I tried to do it the nice way. If I find you, if you hurt her, that's it." Um, and of course he throws the phone or whatever. And Xander was not saying he was going to go ring shopping or whatever. But he's not there contemplating back and forth about selling the ring that Sarah, um, that he bought for Sarah. Ultimately, he does, and he comes back and he gives her the ring, and she says yes, and it's this fairy tale music, and I'm just like, why? We all know exactly what's going to end up happening. Your quote unquote marriage is built on a lie and it's going to come down sooner or later. So, what is even the point of everyone sitting there getting invested? Be like, "Oh man, this is so great. I want to see you two together." You know damn well, it's not going to last. It's just not going to last at all. Now, before the whole ring and everything like that happened, Maggie came over. This is after Gwen starts smashing the phone or whatever. And I'm like, "You're in a hotel. I don't even know if Xander's even paying a bill at this point, and you get a loud knock at the door." I'm sitting there thinking, it's probably, one of the people sitting there telling, like, "Yo, either keep that down or get the hell out. But it's Maggie. She comes in and she's like, she wants to make sure that Xander was okay. Um, Gwen feeling kind of threatened or guilty or whatever is like, I get it. You don't approve of me, and I know, you're invested in the whole Sarah and Xander thing, but it's not happening. And he's kind of better off for it because he proposed to me. So Maggie's like, listen, that's cool, but what worries me more is how Sarah was acting. Saying that she was being very cold and harsh, and that's not the Sarah that she knows. That's not saying she doesn't have her moments, but that's not the Sarah that she knows. And for her to sit there and just do this whole 180, it just seemed pretty off to her. Anyway, Xander comes back in. Maggie says, she's congratulating them, and if Xander's happy, and she's happy. And again, I want to sit there and point out, I do love the friendship of Maggie and Xander. And I kind of wish I would have watched it from because apparently um, Maggie was going to, let's just sit there and say, delete herself, and Xander was there to sit there and kind of save her and stuff like that. So I always appreciate little friendship moments like that. Anyway, she said congratulations, and she kind of walks out, and she seems like she's kind of sad. And at first, Gwen was like, "Yeah, I don't buy anything what she's saying," but in reality, it's not really so much about you; it's more about you know what the hell is going on with her daughter. And of course, Xander, brings out the ring, and she's all happy, and I'm like, yeah, I wish I could sit there and say I cared, but we all know this is gonna last. So what's the point? Now, Sean does come over there, after he throws the phone and, find out what Chad was there saying, Sean was like, listen, I got, we're trained to sit there and handle stuff like this. I could have looked into it. I looked into this, I looked into that. Steve, I even contacted Steve. And at this point, you know, Chad was like, yeah, everything that you said, it sounded like you didn't really get anywhere close or anything like that. So what are we doing? And that's when Sean was like, maybe EJ know. Well, Sean was like, somebody may know where Kristen is at, and Chad was like, okay, yeah, exactly. I know who. EJ. Now EJ is somewhat getting, adjusted to his new settings, or he's just, talking to Belle about the appeal and everything like that, and you know, the whole it wasn't really him. Well, let me sit there and explain this again. So Bella was sitting there telling EJ about the whole, oh, you kissed my wife and you did this, that, and the third. And so they were talking about that for a little bit and just some other stuff. Nothing really majorly important. But, Chad did come in there and Chad was like, yo, do you know, do you know where Kristen is at? Because I feel like Kristen, is the person who has Abby. And, EJ is like, yo, I lost contact with her a couple months ago. I have no idea where she's at. And Chad, not really like believing him fully, they start arguing. And of course, at this point, Chad walks out. But EJ does tell Bella, listen, if it's if Kristen does have Abby, then she's fine. She's not gonna hurt her. She's Demira. She may lock her up or whatever, but she's not going to physically hurt her. And then he gets in this whole thing about how the Damaras may stab each other in the back, but we don't actually harm each other physically. But then he thinks about the two times where he kind of had to, or they had to at some point. They mentioned two other Damaros, two other people. That I guess they just crossed the line where they actually had to be dealt with on a physical level. Oh, good old days. I imagine this was probably early 90s, late 90s, or early 2000s. The time that I wasn't watching the show. I always feel like I miss out on the craziest storylines um, from back then. And then towards the end of the episode, EJ does want a meeting his new roommate, which is kind of odd because he sees the person at the top of the bunk. He's like, "All right, well, we're gonna be seeing each other for a little bit, so you just better kind of just get used to it or whatever." And I'm just like, you always go in prison being so mouthy to a guy who you don't know may let's just sit there and say he may sit there and want to try to have you hold his pockets. I just felt like just being really formal and just kind of pleasant, like, hey, my name is so and so, we're gonna be here for a little bit, so just wanna say hi. Like, you're in jail, okay? Like, jail, not the cushy country club that Spencer is in on General Hospital. This is like real jail. Anyway, the guy turns around and it turns out it's Clyde, Ben's father. I don't know why I'm sitting there saying that. For the people who watch my reviews, clearly know more than I do. But I think the last time I heard about him, he was stabbed by someone. He was in the infirmary. He wasn't dead, but all right, cool. I guess we're gonna be sitting there seeing more Clyde. I guess that was kind of interesting because, from what I understand, either he shot EJ back in the day, or he had some men and he was with them and they shot EJ. Somehow EJ got shot, and I think it was by him. Um, I can remember somebody actually sent me that video a while ago. So I feel like that's about it. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you all for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.